Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Windows 10 two-part webinar series from Cortex Services. Today we're going to be talking through why Windows 10, and next Thursday we will be reviewing migrating to Windows 10, different tools and tips and tricks. For today's presentation, we've got Chris Shalda, who is a solution architect for Cortex Services, who's been working at Cortex for almost 10 years, primarily in the desktop management, desktop infrastructure space. Myself, Clint Adkins, who is the practice manager for Managed Solutions, and I've been in with Cortex for almost 11 years, and primarily working in the desktop infrastructure space for almost 20 years. Today's agenda, we're going to be covering digital transformation and how Windows 10 fits into that. What's new with Windows 10? Talking about security with Windows 10, user and IT productivity, how Windows 10 is more personal, and modern devices. What we'll be doing is we have Karen, who is monitoring and leading this call. If you have any questions, please message her via GoToMeeting, and we will be answering those questions at the end of the call. This call is this webinar is being recorded and will be distributed to all attendees upon completion. Let's jump into it, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Clint, for the introduction. So yeah, where we want to kind of take this here is, digital transformation is probably maybe a buzzword that some of you have heard. And I want to kind of take that topic and show you where a lot of organizations are looking in the future here for innovation and where they're taking IT, and relate that to where Windows 10 really fits in with that. I've spent a lot of time with customers talking about where do they go next, getting to Windows 10, can they do it, should they do it, when should they get there? And there's different things that have come up in terms of different drivers, so that's what we're going to kind of talk through here and get everybody kind of on the same page of where a lot of companies are going to, and maybe some of the challenges and concerns that they've had trying to get there, and be able to maybe show you some of our experiences, give you some insights into what we've seen and how we've been able to help in that space as well. So let's get started here. So really this digital transformation, it cuts across all industries and companies, and whether they're really the big or they're small, and even the most entrenched industries can be disrupted by digital transformation. And some of those most disruptive companies that we've seen arise over the last few years have been really riding this trend. Those companies are using technology really to meet the demand for more personal experiences for their customers. And there's companies just like, for example, there's a good one like Uber, right? That's something I see that's been popping up everywhere. Sure. And you hear about it more, and it's growing so fast. And that's delivering the type of car that you want when and where you need it, making it reliable and seamless. And it's disrupting a 100-plus-year-old taxi industry, right? And it's kind of taking the middleman out of a lot of that, and it's making a big impact because it's great for the customers, right? And so you can see that even the most entrenched companies can be disrupted by this digital transformation. So really looking at this from the perspective of, starting with employees, just employees that work within your organization, you're now seeing that employees are working on more than at least twice the number of teams they worked on even 5 years ago. So they're working with more teams, more people. There's more that collaboration communication needs to be done. Next, 41% of employees say that mobile business apps are already changing the way they work, making them more productive, getting them information that they need quicker, easier, in real time. But the problem is that there's an information overload. And what's been found is that it wastes about 25% of employee time, costing U.S. businesses, $997 billion a year in lost productivity because there's too much information. It's either stale what they have, not getting it soon enough, can't find it, that type of thing. And it's not going to stop in terms of the amount of information that's out there. Now on the security front, that's a scary statistic, is that over 160 million customer records have been leaked. That's, I know, a big deal nowadays, especially for a lot of organizations, is security and keeping, those records. They might be your employees, could be your customers' records that are getting leaked, and that's a big deal to keep your reputation intact and profitability, and to be competitive, of course, on the market too. And what's been found is, on average, and FireEye has found that it takes 229 days to detect a security infiltration within your environment. So a hacker could be sitting inside your environment, breach your environment for that long before you know what's happened. And they have all the time in the world, obviously, to target that really high-end information that could really cause problems for your organization. So it becomes it's a CIO situation, but it's also, it's a CEO. It's everybody's problem. You got to deal with that. But the CIOs out there in the organizations that there's a survey done, really 71% of them say that top priority is supporting new business needs, right? And so it ranks as one of the priorities alongside, growth, labor, materials among businesses. And although you have the attention of the CIO to transform over half the budgets, really are being spent on keeping the lights on. So they're not able to really put the efforts in, whether from a time or money perspective, into this digital transformation to keep up with this changing environment, from how our users are working to keeping our data secure at the same time. So there's the problem, really. And although you have the attention of the CIO, the mandate to transform, you can't get there. What's really holding you back, right? So Microsoft did some surveys, and actually Gartner did some surveys with a bunch of organizations, and really it comes down to this: of what we're hearing from organizations is that security, of course, really it's a top concern. The cost of a security breach can have material impact to your financial performance. Agility is also a top priority. It comes down to older methods for deployment and management are creating challenges in the current environment. And now, millennials have arrived into the workplace, and they really won't stand for outdated processes that hinder their out-of-the-box thinking. And there's really just a great business opportunity for companies that transform quickly. And one of the main things to touch on here from agility specifically is that, companies are struggling with infrastructure and processes that are no longer good enough. And what worked a decade ago is really no longer enough for what they need to work today, and you need new options. So all this are opportunities that Microsoft saw, and I believe that they've really been able to deliver on a lot of these, especially from a Windows 10 standpoint. So really it comes down to that organizations can transform their business by leveraging today's opportunities in technology, and it's more in a more secured cloud environment. It's found that they want to either improve customer experience, deliver disruptive innovation, empower their global workforce, and also drive growth and stay competitive. And businesses are looking for new ways to empower employees, better engage their customers, transform their product, and optimize their operations. But the question is now, how do business leaders, how do they deliver a vision and strategy that takes advantage of that digital transformation? So bring us kind of why we're here today, right, is Windows 10, I think from what we've seen up to now really this is a foundational piece of that digital transformation, right? And, there's a lot of questions out there, a lot of customers that we've talked to don't quite maybe get the full picture about where Windows 10 come from. A lot of times it's, well, we know we just gotta get there. It's just the next one. We're being dragged to it. Mm-hmm. But what I'm hoping that we can convey today is that it shouldn't necessarily feel like you're getting dragged or pushed to get there, but that you want to get there. Because there are some really compelling reasons to start investigating Windows 10, planning, and getting that into your environment really as soon as possible. So what we want to land on today is some key points here around security. That is a key to successful digital transformation. And Microsoft's made great investments in security to protect your company from modern security threats. And Windows is the most trusted platform for businesses. That's just, it is. So, and also Microsoft has designed Windows to help you lower your total cost of ownership and get rid of a lot of the costly processes that you were using before to help your users become more productive. Windows exceeds the employee expectations as well for more personal computing and productivity, and it's also delivered on with versatile devices that you and your users already owned, and they're lighting up the newest and most innovative devices out there as well. So a lot of this is guided kind of Microsoft in terms of where they were taking Windows 10, and it's really a new Microsoft. They've been taking a lot of feedback from customers and really understanding what they need and implementing that very quickly. It hasn't been like that 3-year wait until it comes out, and by the time that comes out, it's already, the customers needed something different at that point. So we're really seeing this from Microsoft as something that they're working in tandem, and they're partnering with a lot of these customers to understand their needs and to deliver. So most of you out there, I'm sure, probably still using Windows 7.
Yeah, hopefully not XP or older, but
yeah, we've been dealing with that too.
Yes.
If you're on XP, of course, that the time is yesterday to get off of that. For many reasons, we won't get into that today. But I think we've seen, right? I mean, a lot of organizations, it's Windows 8 and 8.1 are out as well.
Sure.
But I see the vast majority is still Windows 7, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely, very much so.
Yep.
In the enterprise space, especially, the primary devices that are Windows 8 or 8.1 are mobile devices or tablets of some kind, and majority of normal workstations and laptops are Windows 7.
Yeah, it seems like there's some, and you're starting to trickle in some Windows 10 because some devices come with it, work better with it, right? Yeah. But the thing is here that a lot of companies still have a large footprint of Windows 7, and they're looking at them like, oh my gosh, that takes a lot of planning, it takes a lot of time, how do we get there type of thing. Mm-hmm. So we're going to approach this here from the compelling reasons to get there, to push the organization forward that touches a lot of different aspects of the business. And like I said, next week we're going to touch on kind of how you get there and using from our experiences, mm-hmm. what are the tools, the methodologies, right, mm-hmm. that we've seen work to help you guys get your hands around where you can take it from there. But from Windows 7 perspective, you got to think of a couple things. First of all, it's in extended support right now, right? And that support is actually going to end in January 14th, 2020. Mm-hmm. So we're getting there, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a 3 years out, let's say, but it can take some organizations quite a while to move, right?
It really can. I mean, if you can start getting ahead of the curve now, you won't be trying to run at the finish line at the very end when that expires.
Absolutely. Yeah, so planning earlier rather than later, even if you don't start deploying yet, planning is key. Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing that's going to be, you got to be taking consideration of the new chipsets that come out. Now, there was something with Skylake, which is the current one out that Microsoft was trying to say they're going to end support for Windows 7 on that. Well, they changed their story on that because of customer feedback. Mm-hmm. It said up to the current chipset, which today is the Skylake, the 6th gen chipset with Intel, they'll support Windows 7 for a number of devices, hardware-wise, until the end of the support by the 2020 timeframe. Now, the next version, 7th generation, comes out, they're saying they're not going to support Windows 7 on that. Wow. So buying those new ones is called the Kaby Lake chipset. The idea is that some companies may buy something with Windows 10, they reimage it to get Windows 7 because that's what they're used to, that's what they had processes for. You got to rethink your approach to that, because Kaby Lake's going to start coming out next year on new devices, and you can only wait so long now from that standpoint. So that's a key thing, and it shows here too. There's really new challenges out there, especially from a security standpoint of where, from Windows 7, we didn't have those challenges when Windows 7 came out years ago, right? But the security landscape has changed, and that's where Windows 10 really shines, is addressing a lot of these security concerns here. And we're going to touch on a couple of these here just to give you an idea. Now, just in general, modern security threats, what does that mean in general? Things have changed. The way that attackers are approaching this, it used to be just these, it's kind of these hackers that just want to cause mayhem or fool around, that type of thing. But now it's coming to be, it's a monetary thing, that it's theft, it's ransomware, it's now nation states stealing secrets. There's different motivations, and people are trying harder to get that information and it's much higher valued, right? So what's really interesting is, Director of FBI is really kind of, it's a scary quote, a scary statement from the Director at FBI, James Comey, but he's somebody that's a man on the front lines in this battle, right? And this is something that is a real issue and needs to be addressed. Is because if you're the last person that's plugged all those holes in your devices in your organization, well, guess who's going to be the easiest target, right? You will be. So it really pays to move forward on this and to secure your organization. And just some stats here from the cybersecurity and how it's material. It costs organizations money, the reputation maybe more, right? And it's really becomes a CEO issue. It's not security CEO issue. It's not just the security team anymore. It really has to be from the top down. I mean, when these attackers have compromised your systems, it takes an average over 200 days before they're actually discovered. I mentioned before, it's a lot of time to take, to steal a whole bunch of information and do damage to your business. So that's a very important reason why you should take this seriously, and show you how Windows 10 kind of defends against these types of threats. So yeah, so we'll get into this and really how from devices and the network side, how Windows helps you defend against those modern threats. So what it comes down to is
and real quick, I just want to remind everybody, if you have questions throughout this presentation, please message us and we'll ask them at the end and answer them. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right, keep going, Chris.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So one of the main things that you can do, and it seems kind of revolutionary and a big deal, is replace your passwords and protect identities. The identity now is the new perimeter. It's not just your network firewall, because the mobility. It's the mobility of the identity of your users going outside your network, needing to be productive inside your network, and using a lot more SaaS apps and everything. Your identity is just that much more critical to stay protected. And with Windows 10, there are capabilities now with Windows Hello for Business, where they allow you to use biometrics, PIN, so for like fingerprints and also face scans, iris scans, to replace the password, which is actually critically insecure, and using multi-factor authentication, which is extremely easy to use from an end user perspective, very transparent, but offers a lot extra security that is just in a way that couldn't be implemented in the past in a way that would work consistently and allow the users to continue to be successful. And there's a couple other things like Credential Guard, which helps from keeping your secrets, like the passwords that are cached on your device, from being discovered from a hacker, and using that to move across your environment. People may have heard of pass the hash to access different resources. That's another key feature here. Secure Boot, and Device Guard, Windows Defender are all pieces that will help you only run the software that you trust and eliminate malware on corporate devices. And this can even handle a lot of ransomware issues too. In protecting sensitive corporate data, so it really comes down to it's the data itself which is the asset, and that's what really needs to be protected. So all these are supporting pieces to protect the data. But in addition to that, the data itself, from a file-based perspective, can be automatically encrypted and have persistent protection no matter where that data is, and it follows the data along. But at the same time, breaches will occur. So the key is, if you can detect them quickly, then you can address them and minimize any sort of damage there. So that's where Microsoft has ways to use behavioral detection through the cloud, and also human threat intelligence to quickly identify those compromised devices. And that's through a new feature called Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. I'll go a little more deeper into that in just a minute. Actually, right now. So this is something that's new, very new, and this comes with, and you'll start hearing, I'm going into this more later on, they're changing the way that the Windows Enterprise is sold. There's E3 and E5. This is the more advanced tier of E5 that comes with this. But basically, this is something new. It's not just Windows Defender like your malware on your device, right? This is something that's built into Windows, and it's constantly looking at all of the software on your device and what's happening on your device and real time is detecting threats that have made it past your other defenses, because it's all about defense in depth. So if it gets to this point, this is kind of like that last line of defense against what's going on, because it's not just by looking at network signatures, because those can be out of date. Zero-day attacks, things could be happening by the time you get a patch. The damage might be done, right? So this helps you quickly detect those threats. So, for example, if a machine is suddenly firing up PowerShell and connecting to strange IP addresses while scanning your network, and it's never done anything remotely similar to this before, it's very likely that it's been compromised. But how would you know that otherwise, right? So this is the behavioral-based approach here of how to detect anomalies by understanding what's been done by those users or devices historically. And it allows you to spot those behaviors quickly, take action to shut them down, and then give you that post-breach information to understand quickly what the extent of the compromise is and then how to resolve that in the future going forward, how to protect you. But maybe it's not that simple. Maybe the behaviors are not as blatant, and this could be where a cloud solution comes in. So Microsoft has a unique degree of visibility into the threat landscape. The Advanced Threat Protection Cloud Service is constantly receiving information from over 1 billion sensors around the world. And by using that information, Microsoft can find the patterns in that noise, and it can spot very new threats very quickly. And it's supported by humans, because it's not just machine learning, it's humans in here. They have a digital crimes unit that's looking at this information. And they're experts in threat detection, and their expertise is used to extend and constantly improve the system.
And this is part of Windows 10, correct?
Windows 10 Enterprise, the E5 level. Yep. You got it. So, hopefully you can see that Microsoft has spent a lot of time and efforts into a lot of the security aspects here. And you have a couple options from a business perspective of, the level of the security that you need from your organization. So typically you'll look at professional or enterprise will be the additions of Windows 10 you'll be looking at. And professionally you can get, OEM, you buy the laptop or desktop and it comes with it. You can get it through volume licensing as well, enterprise agreement. Enterprise, you have to go through volume licensing enterprise agreement, like traditionally, but there's some new options now too where partners who are part of the CSP program can provide per user licensing on a subscription basis without the very long length of like 3-year commitment type of thing. And that's something that Cortec actually is a CSP partner, and we can provide that to our customers too. Very recent addition, that capability for us, so we're really excited about that. So as you can see, there's a lot that professional enterprise they have together, and I want to touch on a couple things from an enterprise standpoint. There's a lot of newer features here. So I want to just dive in a little bit deeper on what those mean and how those can affect the company, your organization. So AppLocker, how this works is it allows IT organizations to create a more secure computing environment by restricting the files and apps that either users or groups can run on a PC. So that allows you to increase the security of the device and the data it holds. So that you can only manage AppLocker with group policy on devices when running Windows 10 Enterprise as well. Direct access, now this has been around for a little while, but this is something that's only on the Enterprise version. It allows you to have your users to seamlessly access resources inside the corporate environment without having to have a traditional VPN connection. It's like always on.
Yeah, my understanding is it's improved as well with Windows 10.
Absolutely. Yep. So
the same challenge that you had with Windows, I think it came out, was it Windows 7 or Windows 8?
Windows 7, yeah.
The traditional challenges you had, some of those have been mitigated. So something definitely to revisit if you've looked at it in the past.
Absolutely. And it allows really administrators to keep those remote user PCs up to date by applying the latest policies and software updates.
Sure.
Can be a challenge, right?
Yeah, a lot of companies are struggling with RWS or remote worker solutions to figure out how do they support those users.
Yep, and that's something that's strictly Windows 10. There are some other solutions by Microsoft that allow for that. So the config manager has some capabilities there too. Branch cache, again, it's been around for a while, but this is something where employees in branch offices, they don't need to no longer download content multiple times across their WAN. Maybe you have slower WAN links, say it's costly to do that. And one person downloads it, and it's a peer-to-peer caching service throughout that branch office. Windows to Go is an option. I haven't seen this a lot out there, but it is something that's including Windows 10 Enterprise, it has been improved as well, allows IT organizations to create a fully manageable corporate Windows 10 desktop on a bootable USB drive, external USB drive. So you can take it with you, and it can be used to support or bring your own device scenarios, because whatever device, you plug it in, and then your image that's managed by IT can be ran on it, and you're keeping everything separate. Start screen control. So this is something that's kind of important to a lot of organizations. Where IT departments can now control the layout of the start screen on those company-issued devices by using policies and ensuring those key apps are easily accessible. And IT departments can also prevent users from customizing their own start screens, or maybe just a portion of it, to really take control of that. Or maybe it's shared computers that you do want to lock it down more so and just provide the icons that they need. And that's only available in Enterprise. Credential guard. This is a big deal. This is what mitigates a lot of those major modern security attacks, especially patch the hash, patch the ticket. What it does is it uses the hardware to isolate Windows authentication services and then the users what they call derived credentials. So they're those hashes for Kerberos tickets. And it uses virtualization-based security and Hyper-V under the covers on that device. And isolation helps prevent those patch the hash attacks, which would enable attackers to steal identities, impersonate network users. That's a deeper subject we're not going to be able to get into too much, but that's a very compelling reason a lot of organizations are looking at Windows 10 alone.
Sure, and specifically with the Enterprise version, it's a good, compelling reason to look at Enterprise and evaluate that.
Absolutely. And another new feature here is called Device Guard. So what this does is it uses a combination of both hardware and software security features that when you configure them together, it actually locks the device down so they can only run trusted applications. If the app isn't trusted, it can't run, period. So it means that even if attacker manages to get control of the Windows kernel, he or she is much less likely to be able to run malicious executable code after the computer restarts because of how decisions are made about what can run and when. So this is basically the end of ransomware and taking control of that computer because that malicious code just cannot run. So this is kind of a combination of a couple things from like the app locker from the software side and also like secure boot as well. Now with some of these features, it does require some hardware features like TPM chip, UEFI to be enabled to get these to work. But that's what you flush out in the planning phases, and you make sure that your hardware supports that, and you can take advantage of those.
Sure. And that's something we'll get into a little bit more in the next webinar as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Because we're talking about as well as the tools and options. There's some of those things you need to start thinking about today in terms of planning, right?
Right.
Yep. So really with Windows 10, the idea is that I'll help you reduce the amount of time that you spend on doing what you're doing today as well. To be more productive, so that then you have more time to invest in that digital transformation and to move that forward. So the vision for productivity, it spans both IT and end users. But first, we're gonna focus on IT. And really the key here is that as the management landscape changes, Windows 10 can help you become even more cloud-enabled, but on your terms, of course. And Microsoft already has the support, and Windows 10 has support for MDM to help simplify management, as well as Azure Active Directory join to enable you use the latest in cloud-connected security. And then there's a Windows Store for Business for you to be able to create a curated store experience for your employees to quickly get the apps they need, really in a self-service manner. So it really reduces some of the time that IT need to spend on a lot of those tasks. Mm-hmm. But Microsoft heard you, and you need more. They've heard that you want employees to use their personal devices to access work files, yet you need to manage the app and the data, not the device, right? So what they're doing in 2017, Microsoft's introducing mobile application management to enable you to define security and policy at an app level and not the device level. For example, you can take corporate apps that can be blocked from being shared on Facebook or saved to the corporate cloud service like OneDrive Business, while all other personal apps would be unaffected. And you secure and manage the apps, not the entire device. So it's kind of a very big change in the way you might look at securing devices versus applications, right? Mm-hmm. And
something definitely to keep in mind as you're designing your Windows 10 environment, thinking about how agile you need to be as you're adding new features.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all part of the planning and understanding your use cases for your users.
Yeah.
And where are there opportunities to make things a little easier for on the IT side as well as the user side to get their work done, right? And soon, actually, Windows with any app will be able to be managed on both mobile devices and PCs. And iOS and Android can't do that. And their apps need to be specifically designed to be managed to even have 2 copies installed. So that's like that universal Windows applications. But by contrast, the mobile application management doesn't require your existing apps, both your Win32 desktop type apps and your Windows Store apps, to change, as all types of apps can be managed right out of the box. And most organizations today, they buy a new computer, right? And then they send it off to IT to flatten it, right, and reload a new image. In the process of creating that, maintaining those images is expensive. So there's new options that are available that, depending on your use cases, you can take advantage of. Like with dynamic provisioning in Windows, you could take a brand new machine straight out of the box, and when the user logs in for the first time with their Azure AD credentials, automatically enroll the device in MDM management, push down policies IT wants to set, change the edition from Pro to Enterprise, push down corporate apps, and soon even remove pre-installed apps too. And all this can happen without IT involvement for the user and without deleting any of the drivers or critical machine setup parameters. So Microsoft's heard your feedback about ongoing upgrades, and that's something where a lot of customers have said, man, upgrades need to happen too often. We don't have enough time in between. How can we get on this new servicing model? And Microsoft's focused on making that process as friction-free as possible and minimizing that impact. So you'll see some major improvements here coming soon in the end of 2016 and more noticeable improvements in 2017 with this. And as Microsoft continues to work with customers with their feedback and address those concerns, like the package size, in the short term they aim to provide a better deployment guidance around the network technologies and peer-to-peer technologies like branch cache to help you reduce those impact of upgrades immediately. But Microsoft will also provide IT increased control over the update rollout throughout deployment rings, or apply the ability to control update delivery optimizations to suit the bandwidth needs through Windows Update for Business. So, and when we talk about stay up to date on a proven platform, a big part of that story is Windows as a service. It's really key and critical. So just a couple of things here. The idea is that we're going to have to, it's a little bit of a paradigm shift here now in this new kind of cloud-based world where there's, instead of delivering once every 3 years, 5 years, some major changes, it's going to be more iterative, smaller changes more often to address the needs and be agile enough to deal with that from what are the customers' feedback, what features are out there that they need now that they would like to have developed. And there's a lot of channels available to provide that feedback, and we're seeing things come out very quickly to address a lot of these needs. But in the end here, like, not all devices are the same. You have to have different options for those devices. And there's options for both special systems, which might be on the long-term servicing branch, and also business users keep devices current and still maintain stability. So they're making sure that you have both of those use cases set for you. But why Windows as a service? It's really to deliver the latest features and functionality, and also to allow you to have, this is like the last, the idea is to have this is the last OS you have to upgrade to. And it's just going to be an iterative approach from here on out of just updating it and not have to have another major rip and replace. So in the end, in the long term, that's a really huge benefit here, and that's where we're looking at adding that value. And also with the modern security landscape, right? You have to stay up to date on the operating system and those features, like Credential Guard and Device Guard, some of those things, in order to mitigate those attacks. You have to be getting those features quicker out to market and onto your devices. So that's kind of where Microsoft has been at, and is really trying to take all this customer feedback and make this an easier transition. And Microsoft has taken that feedback, and they've changed the way that they were going to handle Windows as a service. It was going to be a lot more aggressive. They've stepped back a little bit and made it a lot more palatable for pretty much all customers to handle the release cycle on that. So I'm really pleased to see that. And really, it's been adjusted on a cadence to that you don't have to update 3 times a year anymore. And so here you see like the initial release of Windows 10, the November update, anniversary update, and potentially kind of like what a example 2017 release would look like. And they would support now 2 production releases in the market at any time. So that means if you have a November update, you have until late 2017 to move to 2016 summer release. So there's some much larger organizations out there, ones that are highly regulated, it's hard to move. So they've given a little more breathing room, I say, there. You still need to be proactively testing and doing a lot of stuff. You can't wait till the last minute, but at least gives you some more breathing room between releases. So I see that's a really positive change, really comes straight out of customer feedback. And this just kind of illustrates the point of how this is more productive for IT in terms of, reducing deployment times and less IT resources needing for this, where you can spend your time doing other digital transformation projects, things that move the business forward, and not have to focus so much on just this deployment of Windows 10, but you can get time to value a lot quicker. So from that perspective, we'll look at the end user side of things. And the idea is that Windows 10, it's very familiar. And the idea is also that every user is a first-class citizen, whether that situation calls for you using a mouse and keyboard, touch and pen, pen and ink or voice. It works for everybody on any device. And one area that Microsoft's worked on really hard to improve is the inking experience with Windows to make it as natural and fluid as pen and paper. And I've experienced that. It's been way, way better than it has been in the past. And employees are also, they're on the go using multiple devices. And those users should have this experience no matter what screen they're using, running in the desktop or tablet mode, or using typing or touch inputs, or using your phone like a desktop too. So, and really, I could attest to this, that Windows 10 is a familiar interface, right? And some of the feedback that we've heard is that it seems very similar to where a lot of people are from a Windows 7 perspective even, right? They've done put a lot of investments into that. There was a little bit of a disruption, let's say, when Windows 8 came out, and so there's a lot of resistance. But I think I've seen that Microsoft's taken a lot of feedback and made a better experience for the users.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And also, I think we'd all agree that as time goes on, we'll be asked to do more and more, right? So it must increase productivity to keep up. But it's really not just about the tools that do things faster. We're now at a point where to become more productive, you need tools that learn how you work and adjust your personal style as well. So that's where Microsoft is providing from a digital assistance perspective with Cortana, some features there, but also from a device perspective where Continuum is really interesting, where you can switch from different modes. You get these different types of devices now where you have 2-in-1s, where it's like a Surface Book or Surface Pro, and take off the keyboard and go into tablet mode. Continuum makes it very seamless and easy to take advantage of those features without having to disrupt your workflows. You can also take Windows phones, for example, and plug them into a keyboard, monitor, mouse, and you can have a pretty much full fidelity Windows experience on a screen right from the phone in your pocket too. And Cortana is very interesting. They're making a lot of investments in that area to help you to find what you need quicker and just become more productive as well. And of course, a lot of this takes the powerful modern devices to really truly develop or to deliver the full Windows experience. And so Windows 10 works great on existing machines too. And with in-place upgrades, which is an option that we'll talk about next week, is one of the ways to get there. You can get there really quickly from that standpoint. And while it still works really great on all that existing hardware, it works even better on these modern devices that are certified to work with Windows 10, but all different device types, Surface, Lumia, and there's other third-party devices too. And it also supports IoT, like the Internet of Things and other vertical industry solutions, and enables the next generation of collaboration too, with devices like Surface Hub and the next generation of devices like HoloLens too. So it all just works really well together. So talked about the more personal computing, how it's driving digital transformation really in every sector of the economy. And Microsoft's made a lot of investments in Windows to help you really better navigate the digital revolution. So hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the compelling reasons why you might want to start looking at Windows 10 earlier than you had thought before, and starting to strongly consider planning at least, and getting some proof of concepts in place so you can get your hands around what are these features, what are the most important to us, how we need to start planning today on how we get there in the next step. Now, one thing I want to touch on is kind of some of the packages and productivity-wise that Microsoft has offered now. It's a little bit newer. This is something called Secure Productive Enterprise. This is a kind of suite of products that includes Windows 10 Enterprise, but as well as Office 365 and then EMS, the Enterprise Mobility and Security. This is Windows 10 is one piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle when you're talking about digital transformation. You got to talk about productivity suite. You got to talk about mobility. You got to talk about security. That's this package. That's the big picture. That's the big puzzle, and all these pieces fit together on this. And just to give you a high level of what that means, it used to be called Enterprise Cloud Suite. It'd be something that you might be more familiar with. So what they've done is broken this Secure Productive Enterprise into two levels. There's the E3, which is what Enterprise Cloud Suite was. So that's kind of the same thing. But now E5 offers additional features and functionalities, some that have been released today, some that are coming a little bit further into the future here in the next quarter or two. But these are very compelling packages. They've done a really good job of kind of making it more concise of what you get. And if you need the advanced features, then the E5 package is a great option for you. I'd recommend reach out to your partners, your Microsoft reps, to get some more information on this. This is kind of a game changer, and how Microsoft's bringing this whole digital transformation together and making it easier for you to get there.
All right, well, and that wraps up part one of migrating to Windows 10. We're going to go into some questions and answers. So if you have any questions, please submit them now to us via GoToMeeting. And while we're waiting on that, our next part of this series is migrating to Windows 10. Is going to be scheduled for next Thursday, the 29th at 1 p.m. If you're not signed up, I do recommend you sign up. We can also send you a recorded copy if you're not able to attend, or feel free to reach out to Chris or I directly via LinkedIn. We're going to be covering the economic impact of Windows 10, migration process, tools, approach, compatibility, thinking about things such as VDI, or app virtualizations, in-place upgrades versus re-imaging of traditional devices. We're going to talk about what the methodology and how you manage that process to ensure success and set you up for long-term success with agility in your enterprise. And then we'll also be talking about the servicing model and servicing strategy so that you can be agile in the future.
Looks like we have a couple questions. What are some common reasons for incompatible applications?
Yeah, Chris, would you like to take that, or do you want me to take that?
Why don't you take that one?
Sure.
I think you're real close to some of those areas too.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So we definitely will be covering this more in next week's webinar. But Windows 10 at its core from Windows 7, there's very few differences from a application compatibility perspective. There are some, but where we see the majority of impacts to compatibility and compatibility testing is when companies are changing their infrastructure, their image or policies, and doing things such as changing from users being local administrators on the workstations to standard users, or enabling UAC, or another big common one where people struggle is browser compatibility, and looking at that browser strategy as a whole. Architecture changes from x86 to 64. You don't see too many of challenges in that space, but on occasion you do, depending on the app. And Office versions, OneDrive, things like that. That's really your most common challenges you're going to see. But we'll be covering that in a little more detail next week. So thank you for asking that question.
Another one is, how do you ensure the same user configuration between multiple devices?
That's another good question too. I guess, why don't you take that one too, Clint?
All right, well, so So I think there's, I guess, let me think about that for a second. There's a few different things to consider there. You've got user profiles, you have applications, so from a user profile perspective, typically, if you're going to go down this kind of a route, there are certain things you can do without it, but you're going to want to look at some sort of a roaming profile, whether that's Microsoft or there's tools out there such as Absence that can help manage your profiles. You can leverage a tool such as that. There are a few other things you can do within Windows 10 to help ensure that your local users' information roams between devices. But I would say definitely check out user profile management. From an application perspective, there's, again, lots of different options from that as well. SCCM, if you're using SCCM or any other configuration management tool, should be able to cover this as well. But desired state configuration, looking at ensuring applications are pushed to all devices. Chris brought it up earlier in the webinar, some of the things that Microsoft's doing in the future with mobile device management and things that definitely could be part of that strategy. So.
Yeah, virtualization like AppV and some of the other things like Remote App and even Citrix has some great options there too, I'd say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great.
Karen, any other questions?
No, I think that's it.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending. Chris, great job today. Thank you. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Chris or I via LinkedIn. Otherwise, we'll be talking to you next week. Thank you.
Thanks.